Welcome back, everybody, to the Trial of the Force podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd related media. Today, once again, is one of those days where we do not talk about Star Wars, or maybe we will at the end, we'll see, and talk about those other nerd related medias. And today's topic will be Godzilla minus one, although we'll see if we don't get sidetracked in the first part of this conversation and talk about something completely different. But joining us today, my very good friend, a roommate, a podcast host from the One and Done Show, the Imperial Senate podcast, a rewatch between worlds on the Acto Radio channel, super fan of Manchester United, and most important of
Sufferer.
all, most important of all, a Novotel Ranger, Nicky Kumar.
Ooh, hello, hello.
Welcome, Nicky. How's it going, man?
Thank you. Man, it's exciting to be here. I think this is my first time on Triad. Um,
Yes, it is.
I played a support role in the
That
live
right.
episode on
That is true.
in the
You were
celebration.
executive
But
producer, director of the trailer
yeah,
for
I
our
wore a few hats.
It was it was great. It was great. All on
Yeah,
the fly. I was very impressed. I didn't hire you on the spot because I don't have money,
yeah,
but
yeah.
otherwise it'd be like, damn, you're the man.
No, I mean, you can be surprised when you're just working on a phone, right? It's
Yes,
one of those
yes.
things, diamonds are forged under pressure, right? You got the small phone and just using iMovie and seeing what magic comes out. So, yeah, no, that was a good time, and we miss London dearly, but we
We
are
miss
here,
London
and
dearly. I don't know if we
yeah,
miss Charlie as much, but at least London we miss it. Oh, I kid, I
yeah,
kid. Charlie, we love Charlie.
we do. He's our own Godzilla of sorts.
Of sorts. I don't know
Yeah,
what
he comes
sorts.
to our
Yeah,
shores every now and again. It causes a problem.
that's all. That's all British men if you think about it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a colonial problem and one that we'll discuss in depth as we talk about Godzilla. But before we get started, like you said, this is the first time on Try It. We've been wanting to have you before in the past. Obviously, there was a snafu while we were trying to talk about a certain Beatles song. Uh, Apologies.
Fell under the floorboards.
In life. Ahsoka, we wanted to have you there too, but then
Yeah.
those those dang strikes happen, and those damn
Yep.
kids with their billboards asking for more money got in the way. Uh,
Of our episodes, or
yeah, it's like damn it, you want a livable wage, and we want to record a podcast that we don't make any
yeah,
money on.
we're bored.
Uh,
Come on.
exactly. But hey, it's never too late, and like we're we're doing this, talking about something completely different
Yep,
to kind of
yep,
wind down the year. But hopefully, like in 2024, when Star Wars ramps up again, we can do this again and thematically
absolutely.
on the Star Wars
Yeah.
world. But how has Star Wars been treating you this year? Are you happy with Star Wars?
I am. What a question. Are you happy with Star Wars? It's like, yeah, I am. I am totally. Um, and that's not to say it's like the the most unflawed thing in the world. It's just it's like, you when you enjoy Star Wars so much, and you develop a relationship with it, and it becomes like a relationship with a person. And
Mhm.
you know, a relationship in a person can annoy you. It can, you can have your bad days. You can be like, I don't like when you do that thing. But in the end, the same thing. The same relationship will, be inspiring and give you joy, and
Mhm.
and it's always there. It's always there for you. So I think, yeah, my relationship with Star Wars is really good right now, and I loved Ahsoka. I thought I thought that was like when I was watching it, I was like, this is Star Warsing about as
Mhm,
hard
mhm.
as I've ever seen anything Star Wars, like,
It, it,
for a
it met
long
your
time.
it met your expectations, or did it
It
exceed?
did, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'd say even exceeded. I think it wasn't. It's one of those things where it's like, the bits and pieces, but seeing it all come together, um, yeah, I think it was there's a lot of things, like, I still can't believe happened,
Mhm.
even just little things, like the blade of Talzin. I'm like, well, like what is going on?
Yeah.
This is insane. Um, so yeah, no, it was great, and I'm trying to think like what was the year of Star Wars? We had
I mean, that's
Vision season two.
and that's interesting that you
Um,
start phrasing it that way because somehow you think about this year, and when I say you, I mean me. I think about this year. It's like, oh, there hasn't been that much Star Wars. It's only been kind of Ahsoka, and it kind of goes to show
mhm,
like how much stuff has been going on this year. It's been such a roller
yeah,
coaster year of so many things that have been happening that it's been
yeah,
kind of monumental year for Star Wars. As we had, yeah, you said Visions, we had Bad Batch season 2, then Celebration,
yeah,
we had Mando season 3, which
yeah. It's true. Yeah,
like big
it's so
deal,
far away.
big deal. The
Yeah.
announcement for all the movies, like it's been a wild year for
Phase
Star
three of High
Wars,
Republic
which
just
is
kicked
yeah,
off.
which is going. Are you reading?
Yeah,
Are you reading the books right
yeah. I
now?
finished Eye of Darkness, and that was cool. That was a good book.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
still 2/3 of the way in, so
yeah.
still have a little
No,
ways to
yeah.
go.
I really enjoyed it. I thought the last third, the third ahead of you, like it really floors it
Hmm.
into the ending. So yeah, it's a blast. Phase three is off to a cool start. Um, and yeah, it's cool to just like soak in it,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think part of what's been good for me, um, as you mentioned, the strikes, like my shows I do, we all took off, right?
Hmm.
Like, um, we didn't want to cover stuff. We didn't want to, not because we get like monetized, but
Hmm.
because solidarity. And I'm
Right,
a working ish writer who wants to be in a one of those guilds, so I didn't want to step on any toes for sure.
right, right.
Um, but but yeah, I think part of that experience and not having to be plugged in and not having to have a take and not having to, you know like in the past, I watch an episode of something and I'd be like, well, that's what we're going to talk about on the episode.
Hmm.
And and it was nice to not have that, um,
Interesting. Mm.
for this year. So I think that has really, it's really kind of not wholesale changed, but it has like altered my relationship more with podcasting and like
Mhm.
fandom. Um, I think that was more affected by the strikes. It's like Star Wars is always there. Like it's always there
Mhm,
for me.
mhm.
Like I don't have like a thing where I get mad at it. Like I
R
just, you know,
right. Enjoy it,
it's just it's
and if
just
it
there.
doesn't
It's
click,
fun.
it's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the
Yeah,
next
I have a
thing.
good time. Have a good time. I'll talk about it in private with people, what may or may not work or for me. But no, I mean that's it. It's chill, and then you move on. And and I think that was a nice thing, because I think when we're in these podcasting spaces, the same sort of things just keep getting churned
Right.
over and over and over again, and you don't quite go through that process of moving on from it and being like, "Oh yeah, we have life to go live," right? Like it's
It's
not the most important thing.
It's interesting though because I feel like there was a duality this year of how we
Mhm.
were especially like us who are like in these podcasting circles and we like to talk about it in these platforms, right? And we had Celebration on the one hand, and then we had Ahsoka on the other, and, and those were completely opposite experiences. Because where Ahsoka, because of necessarily because of the strikes, the WGA and SAG after strikes, we weren't really talking about it actively, either on social media or on our podcasting platforms, or even
Mhm.
amongst each other to an extent, just because of how our circles sometimes uh, function. But
Right.
then Celebration was quite the opposite because we saw like the penultimate, I think it was, episode of Mando season 3 there, and obviously we're
Mhm.
in these arenas watching it with hundreds of fans, and then after that is talking to each other and the euphoria and all that stuff. So it's like both perspectives is like one being very quiet and personal and at home, and then
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
event of Star Wars. And I think it obviously wasn't planned because no one expected the strikes to happen. Well, the strikes were seen that were going to happen, but no one expected them to
Yeah.
last as long as they did. So the
Definitely,
impact that
yeah.
was going to have on the Star Wars community was not planned to that extent. So to kind of see both ends of the spectrum was really interesting to then see like how we interact amongst each others and how
Yeah.
Star Wars affects us in both environments, right?
right. It was very all or nothing, like you say. Um, and yeah, no, I think that is also the difference because the celebration side of it is face to face conversation. It's
Mhm.
not just getting on Twitter and probably arguing with somebody, right? Like you're gonna eventually argue with someone.
Yeah.
Um, and I so it's like it was even a healthier level of all. You know,
Mhm, mhm.
it was you felt the you always anyone who goes to celebration it's like the realest we get to the force like actually existing
Yes,
because you
100%.
feel it, right? Like, you feel it in the air in celebration, like, just the like, it's very rare to find people at celebration who are either, like, wanna be down on Star Wars or are in a bad mood, towards Star Wars. Maybe they're in a bad mood because they, you know, didn't get into a panel, but 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 they're not in a bad
Not everyone can be Sean Room and get
yeah, not
into
everyone gets,
no.
friends sneaking in bathroom passes.
No, no, but,
Um
his backpack disappeared, so I guess karma.
I mean, when you're an apostate, things happen.
It happens, but,
Um, but but yeah, no, there's you know that energy at celebration is just so much healthier when you're like, this is it. Like this, like what happens on Twitter is not it. Let me just tell you,
no.
like that is not it. What happens in person with your friends, with new friends, the the panels, the excitement, the actors on the live stage, like
Mhm,
that is it. Um, and so I think yeah, it obviously it's hard to go to celebration for everyone. Like it's not something everyone can just go do. I do
mhm.
hope for any Star Wars fan that they do eventually have a celebration to go to because it really does change your outlook. At least it did for me. It changes your outlook on what being a fan is for Star Wars.
It does, 100%. I mean, London was my 4th celebration,
Mhm.
and each one just gets incrementally better because as much as you open yourself up to what that experience can be is what you get from it. It's kind of like
Right.
since like I'm in a Beatles trip lately, it's kind of like Paul McCartney says in the end, right? It's like the love you take is equal to the love you make type of thing. It's like the more you're open yourself up to what
Mhm.
celebration can be, the more you're more fulfilling that experience can be. So
Well, you know what the Star Wars version of that is, right?
what? Tell
It's
everybody.
it is what's in there. Only what you take with you.
Damn, you're
It's
absolutely
that's
right.
what it's about.
Yep,
Again, it's like if you want to go be mad, like you're
you're
gonna
gonna
take
be
that and you're
really
gonna
mad.
find anger, right? You're
Yep.
gonna find it. And if you go in seeking a good time, relaxed, ready to have fun, like
Just gotta
it's
go to
there.
the Novotel.
And
That's what you gotta do.
exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's all those things. It's the cave. It's focus determining reality. Like it's
Mhm.
all those little nuggets. It is as you said, the Beatles line. It's that too because it is all the same message. Um, but yeah, no, it's a magical thing, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I do hope anybody who has yet to go can go because it is a blast.
Here's to hoping Japan, Tokyo celebration,
Yep.
we're able to plan it because that's gonna be a wild one.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
if everyone gets to like plan it and we get there's a good squad. It's gonna be in, like in, I can't even imagine like how great that'll be if
Yeah.
everyone can go
In
there.
my head, I'm already like planning to go like 2 weeks early and
Yeah,
just like
a hundred percent.
tourisming the crap out of Japan.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna like be more efficient before or after. Because like, do I want to like because you walk so much in the convention that do you want to like murder your feet before and then just not be able to really do the tourist
Yeah.
thing? Or but I mean, when you're touristing, you're also walking a lot, so it's just like I don't know. It's a ultimately, I think
Yeah.
either option is great. And if you're going to go to a different country, you might as well make it a vacation because I think it would be very sad, at least for me, if I go all the way around the world to go to Japan and not see Japan and just see a convention center.
Exactly.
That would not be great.
It's not an easy trip for us, right?
No, 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 no.
In the way that London's not an easy trip, but it is it's
Easier,
about
right?
6.5 hours from Chicago, or we both flew out of.
Exactly.
Um, so it's like it's not awful, and even just for me, like I lived in London for a year.
Mhm.
Going back was it almost felt like a business trip going back. Like
Mhm,
it was
mhm,
so economic. Like we're like in out by so like that's not usually how I spend time in England.
mhm.
And and so yeah, for Japan, I'm like, I definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I need vacation. I need to go see the things. I need to go to the Godzilla museum. Um, yeah,
Interesting segue because we've been
because
talking
Godzilla's having a
about
moment.
the I saw a meme saying that it's the hardest working actor in Hollywood,
Yeah.
and it's a good time as any to like pivot because we're talking about Japan, we're talking about big franchises, and it's interesting to talk about these big franchises because Star Wars, massive franchise, and then this was supposed to be the summer of the blockbuster. We were supposed to have
Yeah.
Mission Impossible that was supposed to do very very well. Indiana Jones was supposed to also crush it, and it didn't. So we've been seeing like all of these big franchises kind of flounder, so to speak,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, like these Japanese ones flourish because obviously the one we're going to talk about, Godzilla minus one, has been doing numbers at the box office. It's being very well received critically. And then not only that, but we have the new Miyazaki film, The Boy and the Heron,
Yeah.
which also doing extremely well. Like I watched it yesterday at the Alamo and it was completely packed. Like it was hard to like get a seat for that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting to see that the films that we weren't really expecting that were going to do like these big numbers or be necessarily well received are quite interestingly beating, right? The machine, beating the mouse, and being like really cultural moments, right? So before we get into Godzilla proper, like what does that tell you about the state of film right now, where these big tentpole franchises are collapsing, for lack of better word,
Yeah.
and these smaller films, like again, The Boy and the Heron, Godzilla minus
Yeah.
one, are doing extremely well. What does that say to you?
I think it shows how powerful word of mouth is.
Hmm.
Because like again, you look at all those movies, Indiana Jones. I loved Indiana Jones.
Same. Mhm.
Mission Impossible. I love Mission Impossible.
It
Um,
I was saying the Mission Impossible movie was like an AC/DC album. It's
yeah,
exactly the same as all
yeah,
the other ones, but it rocks. And
yeah.
it's the same
Yeah,
album,
you're
but it rocks.
you're enjoying it, right? Like,
Exactly.
and it's good. And you kind of it has that anticipation of what's Tom Cruise gonna try and
Mhm.
kill himself doing. Um,
Right. That's the last one.
but yeah, but yeah, it's so I think it has to do. I think getting into the weeds a little. I think Mission Impossible got cut by Barbie and
Mhm.
Oppenheimer, the great Barbenheimer, where all the money did go,
Mhm.
is I think that was a tough thing to lead into. Um, so so it's one of those things where yeah, I don't have a comment on the quality of the movie
Mhm.
because I pretty much enjoyed everything I saw this year, but
Mhm.
um, but I think word of mouth is is kind of like the thing now, which is
Mhm.
interesting because it's like, oh, even if even if you loved like you and I, we both enjoyed Indiana Jones.
Mhm.
There's enough talk where even if just somebody's like, oh, yeah, I didn't like it, like that'll make somebody on the fence just not go.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, or they'll be like, oh, Harrison Ford's so old, I don't want to go see that. It's like all these just little things add up. Mission Impossible, I think, yeah, had more to do with the Barbenheimer and
It's
it's
swallowed up. Yeah.
their own IMAX runs and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, but with Godzilla and Boy and the Heron, I think you saw them start small
Mhm.
and through again word of mouth and people being like, oh my god, this is incredible, like go see it. Um, you saw people more interested in going. Um, a lot of blockbusters got pushed out of December because of the strikes.
Mhm.
Like a lot of things just shifted further down. I think Dune 2 was supposed to be like end of November or October or something. Why'd I say Dune 2? That sounds stupid. Dune Part 2.
Doing the second.
Yes, like Dune 2. Um, but but yeah, like, I think, it cleared some space, and then these
Mhm,
smaller movies, this from this beautiful nation of Japan that has
mhm,
decided
mhm,
to, go full on attack on our film industry.
mhm,
Um, it like they started small again, and people said this is cool. They're getting great reviews, great scores, whatever. If you look into numbers,
mhm,
and because of that, they've grown. And you keep seeing on the Godzilla social media, it's like we're adding, like 8,000 theaters next weekend,
mhm,
and I think Boy and the Heron was similar in that it started in a few places and then wider release, and the dub cast is loaded. So
mhm,
like if you're somebody who's like, I'm not sure, this kind of Japanese animation, I'm not sure what that is, but then you see there's a dubbed version, and
and it
it's
has Mark
like,
Hamill.
yeah, Mark Hamill, baby. you know, Luke Skywalker himself is there, and
Mm,
Christian Bale, and Robert Pattinson, and Florence Pugh, and like there's just names everywhere.
mm,
So I think that's also an encouraging thing for people. Like, oh, they're those are people I enjoy the work of. So we can go there, and yeah, it's really like proven to be quite powerful, and
mm,
obviously it helps when they're amazing films. Um, but like we've seen a lot of amazing films not make money.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, it's just there's a lot of like just interesting factors that have made this year like pan out into what it was. And again, it's like people forget that Barbie and Oppenheimer, yes, had their runs in the strike, but they also had their premieres right before the strike.
mhm.
So we did get that machine moving.
We
um
got that video of like when the strike started that like all the actors had to leave
yeah,
the premiere
yeah,
in the middle of it. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I totally
yeah, and we
forgot that
and
they.
like they got that. We like Margot Robbie did her show up as a Barbie at every event. Like her outfit was inspired by,
Mhm,
sort of a classic Barbie. Um and like you can't ignore that doesn't, work on people to build excitement and anticipation and stuff. So
mhm,
we can't forget. Yes, they did have the majority of their run, if not all of it, in a strike setting, but they also aren't like disproving the theory because they did have their build up.
mm.
Um, where something like the Marvels, especially, well, a lot of the talk is around that movie. Like they didn't have any of it, and it was already an uphill battle. So
Right.
yeah,
I
it's
think
just
it's interesting that you frame it that way because I agree 100%. But it's a multifaceted thing, right? And I
yeah,
think Barbenheimer is kind of an exception to everything else because it was such a cultural zeitgeist, right? It was a meme. It was like the
yeah,
unlikely pairing of these two opposite things that it kind of took a life on its own. And the fact that then both movies having to be great is just a cherry on top, right? So it's like these two
right,
kind of like opposite films that somehow coexist and somehow are also very, very good. Made like everything stand out amongst the rest because, as you were saying, personally, I loved Indiana Jones and Dial of
mhm,
Destiny. I thought Mission Impossible was good. The Marvels I thought was a lot of fun. But I think a lot of people, especially like with how expensive movie theaters are like nowadays, let's be honest, I think people want to be won over, right? And
yeah,
they want to be like, okay, well, is this gonna be worth my time? Especially like families where you have to buy X amount of tickets. It's like, okay, is this gonna be like a spectacle or like a moment for me to go to the movies? And I think there's a lot of cynicism and exhaustion too about like what movies you're quote unquote supposed to see because
yeah,
again, not this is not talking about the quality of the film, but the big studios and with all these like tentpole franchises, they're like the big banks, right? They're too big to fail. It's like, well, this franchise never gonna bomb. Indiana Jones is never gonna bomb. Marvel's never gonna bomb. And like people are just like, dude, like I like why should I go? It's like, why should I go and invest my time there on something that maybe I've already seen, or like you're not really enticing it to be like this fun thing that I should be watching? And that's
Yeah.
something that Barbenheimer provided. I think that's something that like these movies that we're talking about are providing as well. It's just like something fresh, something that's creative, something that's making people excited because it's something that they haven't really experienced before or haven't really experienced as in a big way in the way that we're kind of experiencing these films. Because in the years that I've been going to the movies, I don't remember a major release of a Japanese Godzilla movie or of a
Mm.
Miyazaki film. I've always like been aware of those movies as like they're on TV or it's just a DVD that's like in Blockbuster or something like that.
Yeah.
But like these big cinematic releases of these films is something that I don't remember in recent history. So
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah, I think another thing that sort of it sits over all of it is making movies is too expensive.
mhm, mhm,
And in it being so expensive, it means the pressure on every movie,
mhm.
whether it deserves it or not, is you have to end game this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and if you're not doing those numbers, there's something wrong with you. And
Mhm.
like, so and that is the conversation that's been created because we don't have movies made at a medium level budget that can bring in
Mhm.
a medium level box office.
Well, A24 has been able to do that, like Dream
Yeah.
Scenarios and like basically every single A24 movie just
Yeah.
knocks it out of the
But the
park.
but the big guys,
Mhm.
they killed that, the middle movie as it's
And they
called.
and they used to have those films like
Oh yeah.
mid 2000s. Like there was like a bunch of
Right, dude, your
like
Touchstone
the
Pictures.
fake indies, that were just like
Yeah.
major studios just
Yeah.
doing like
I
mid
think
budget films.
that's the one that I think of the most. Touchstone was the $40 million movies.
Mhm.
Like, that's what it's about. I mean, that's why Knives Out was such a great throwback because it was like like a $40 million movie, and it made a crap ton outside of that.
Well, but then
So
Netflix comes and kind of fumbles it because Glass Onion, as great as it was, Netflix didn't push it. Wasn't
yeah,
in theaters for that long. I mean, I saw it in theaters and I loved it, but
yeah,
after that, like Netflix just like buried it. Okay, it's like okay, it's out. Next thing, and
yeah.
it's I
No,
think
exactly, because it became part of the pipeline,
yep,
and
yep.
that's what they care about. Again, it's like we saw it through the strikes. We see it now. Um, for whatever reason, the people in charge of making movies kind of hate movies.
They
Like,
well, I wouldn't say necessarily that they hate them. They just don't care about them. It's
well, it's
just
just
I
like
mean, they call
why
them
why
content for God's sakes, you know.
yeah, it's like why are they so like apathetic towards like the the craft of it? I mean, you see Bob Iger, who's
Mhm.
like, Daddy Iger.
He's become the very thing he swore to destroy.
Exactly, Emperor Iger.
Mhm.
He looks at, or what his like quote that went around where he's like, our filmmakers have lost track of what they're supposed to be doing, which
Mhm.
is entertaining, and
Well, which
good, and messages aren't, messages can be okay, but that's not the job.
in a
And it's
way
like, it is the job, Bob. It
in
is the job.
in a
It's
way
the
that's
only
an
job.
it's an evolution. I think this is something Michael Eisner said. Michael
uh,
Eisner said something very similar. I don't know if it was like 90s or early 2000s. He said we're under no obligation to make art. Like our job is to obviously paraphrasing, our bottom line is to make money for shareholders, and if in the process of doing that we happen to make art, then that's even better. Which is kind of telling about the perspective that all these people coming into these, well, not these people, these executives coming into like these films come to it. It's just like it's a commodity.
they want
It's
to
not
make
art,
rides. They want to make rides, Goose.
and that's
Like,
fine
that's,
too. But like you can.
again, a
It's not
ride is a
either.
ride, a movie is a movie.
Hmm,
Like,
hmm.
but they're not the same.
They're not. They're
So
not. There's
yeah, so
there's they can
don't act
coexist.
like, of course you can enjoy them for what they are, but
Hmm,
you can't have a movie and say this is pure entertainment,
hmm,
because pure entertainment is Rise of the Resistance. Like,
hmm, hmm, hmm,
and even that has a bit of a story, but it's also like, it's like, no, like, again, I say this with writer brain. It's like, you don't write a movie to say nothing.
hmm.
Like, that's not the job. That is the opposite of the job, Bob.
It's
Like,
it's inherently impossible to kind of
yeah,
to not say something.
again,
You
it's
will say
like you
something by the
you want to
nature of
make
it.
Splash Mountain. That's what you're talking about, Bob. That is pure entertainment.
Mhm,
Or
mhm,
Space Mountain or whatever. Pick a ride. And that's not a movie's job. So yeah, no, it's just that like divorced from reality and this inflated budgets, and you have
mhm,
to make this money and you have to do this, and if you're not, we're doing something wrong, they're doing something wrong, the fans hate what we're doing. It's like that's probably not the case.
mhm.
And like again, I guarantee the Marvels is going to be one of those movies that goes on Disney Plus and people are going to watch and be like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Like
100%. Yep.
like that's what it's gonna be. That's what happened to Solo when it went on Netflix. Because you
Mm,
had all these people who, again, word of mouth being as powerful as it is, they're just like, I didn't. I heard it was bad. I heard the Han Solo actor needed lessons. Like
mhm, mhm,
so I didn't go see it. And then they saw it on Netflix. And like, oh, that was good. That was a fun movie. Um, so yeah, no, it's just the system is very, I want to say, sick,
mhm,
because that
mhm, mhm.
implies that it can get better.
Exactly. And
And
it's a cycle, I think, like,
yeah,
right now, it's kinda shake it off a little,
yeah,
I'm not gonna say it's a genuine shake off, it's probably a cynical one, but,
yeah.
I think with the writers coming back and the actors coming back, there's going to be some correction of
We just have to
things.
hope. Yeah, we just have to hope the right lessons are learned,
Well, we know that
which
it's
doesn't
never the
tend to happen,
case.
right? It doesn't tend to happen.
But,
It's like the great Barbie thing of like,
right.
oh, we should make more movies about toys. Like, no,
No, it's
that's
like no
that's not what it
no
is.
one wants Pippi Longstocking or whatever the hell the
Yeah,
next one is.
yeah.
But speaking of word of mouth and now going, specifically into that Godzilla -1,
Yeah.
which, I thought was great. Like, what was, like, your entry point into this movie? Because for me personally, I have never seen any of the Japanese Godzilla movies. My
Mhm.
entry point into Godzilla was 1998, Godzilla
Yeah,
starring
buddy.
Matthew Broderick,
What
and I'm not
what
gonna
a
lie, like,
ride.
it was one of my favorite movies ever because I had the giant
Absolute.
Godzilla toy, I had the
Yeah.
cassette with the soundtrack because there was the Green Day Brains 2 song that I thought was the greatest song of all
What
time.
was the P Diddy one with the cashmere
With
sample?
Kashmir,
Yeah.
yep, well, P. Diddy, oh, let's not talk about him, nowadays,
He
but,
he was Puff Daddy at the time.
how times have changed since the
Indeed,
'90s, but,
indeed.
yeah, that was the Godzilla that I grew up with, and, you know, clearly not at all inspired by the Japanese one, once you kinda start looking at what the original kaiju films, were doing, so then I saw Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, which I thought was really good, Godzilla versus Kong, which I thought was a lot of fun, so never delved into Japanese ones, for
Yeah.
some odd reason. I don't know why, but then this one's marketing kind of caught my attention in a way that kind of shocks me, even now, because I'm like, hey, why was I somehow interested in that one when I haven't been interested in Godzilla films previously? So what was it about this? I mean, did you have a similar experience, or have
Oh
you
yeah.
actually been watching Godzilla
No, yeah.
before?
The 1998 movie was an absolute jam. Like I had T-shirts. I remember also I had a big Godzilla. I don't
Yeah,
know
same,
if it's the
same.
same one. Is it the one where like you could put the action figure in its mouth and like slide it through the back or
I
something?
I I don't think I had that. I think mine, maybe I'm just misremembering, but I think mine was kinda, like, mechanical, and, like, I could, like,
Oh,
control it,
okay.
and like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Interesting.
gonna have to do a Google
Oh,
search now
this
to
is
see
this is
which toy I had,
the great experience of 90s kids is we got to go find the toys we had. Like,
but it was great. I loved
yeah.
that one. It was so good.
No, it's one of those ones where it's like that is pure for me, like guilty pleasure
Mhm,
film,
mhm.
because it's like, yeah,
It's
we
Independence Day,
know,
but with
yeah,
a Tyrannosaurus Rex,
we
basically.
know the acting is not great, it's not, dialogue not great, writing not great, whatever. It's just kind of like a blast to watch for every good and bad reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was definitely my entry point. I think I have probably ventured a little further
Mhm.
than what you were saying. Um,
Good.
like like I've seen some of the Japanese ones. But I of course, more in my mind I have the, like you said, Gareth Edwards, the second one, King of the Monsters.
Mhm.
Godzilla and Kong. This new Godzilla and Kong coming out.
It looks great. Looks
Yep,
like
the
as stupid as I want. Yeah.
Monarch TV show um, is currently ongoing, and so definitely like the U.S. side of Godzilla is really like moving its gears.
Hmm.
But I've always been sort of like on the lookout. I remember when Shin Godzilla came out
Hmm.
in
I've heard really good things about that.
2016, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and to your point, I don't really think I had anywhere to go see it. Um, like it was just there. It was happening. And
Hmm.
maybe in like New York and LA they were showing it. But with this one, it did seem to have this like this sort of more um accessible type thing going
Hmm.
on. Like it's like I like again I looked on the Draft House app and I was like, oh, that's playing today. Cool.
Hmm.
Um so yeah, I've always been on the lookout for it. I've always loved Godzilla as as a entity since '98,
That's
and so I'm
the animated series,
yeah,
from the film. Yeah, that was a
exactly,
big
yeah.
deal.
So yeah, I'm always on the lookout. I'm always pretty excited for it. But I think on that side, it's one of those things where I remember just trying to talk with people about. I think it was King of the Monsters, and I was like, I just don't. It's like looking at it is just not and was not enough for me.
Mhm. Right.
And I was like, at the time, I wasn't sure how to like explain that. And one of my friends was like, "Yeah, but you don't do that. Like you don't watch it for the people. Like you watch it to watch the monsters go." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And then Godzilla minus one
Rewrote
took
that.
that
Yep.
argument and atomic breathed it because
Very much so. Yep.
it did what Godzilla is about. Godzilla is so antithetical to just shut up and watch the monsters.
Hmm.
And so like Godzilla is about themes and metaphors and the humanity of it.
Hmm.
And and so to have Godzilla minus one in a more modern filmmaking go right back to the Godzilla roots,
Right. Right.
I think was so powerful. And I think that is what like that's basically it. When I was like, why don't I like King of the Monsters? Because I was waiting for Godzilla minus one, like essentially.
Oh, that was deep. I like that. But
There you go.
you're absolutely right, and it's something that you read, right, and feel to an extent when you watch like the American Godzilla movies. It's just that like the human characters like don't contribute really anything to the story, or that they're not compelling enough, or that the month or that it's a rock and sock and robots type of movie,
Yeah.
which is fine too. Like I love me some oh my god. Uh, what's the Pacific Rim? That's Rock and
Oh,
Sock'em, and it's a lot of fun.
yeah.
But it knows what it's doing, and I think the American Godzilla films have always been confused because it's like, okay, how do we take this icon of Japanese cinema that does these thematic things? As Godzilla as a theme, it's not a character, so to speak,
Mhm.
and inject him into like an American narrative and into a Western narrative, and it hasn't particularly translated well, I don't think, because what Godzilla stands for these characters isn't what it doesn't really affect what Western audiences stand for to an extent. So that's why I feel like some or think that the characters in those films don't really connect with the conflict of Godzilla, because it's a conflict that's kind of detached to what they're supposed to be in conflict with, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Totally. They're secondary in the US ones.
Hmm.
Um and like it's so the opposite with this one.
Hmm.
Like the humans are everything. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's like you have the especially in these sort of um is it Legendary Pictures the one they're making it the
One of
Godzilla
them.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's them. So I just want to attribute properly
Give credit where
before
credit's
I
due.
tell them their movie suck. But no, it's like it's it's just I don't like using this word because I don't want it to imply that you shouldn't watch it. Because by all means, I have a good time watching those too.
Mhm.
Um, but they come out shallow,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and it's one of those things where it's like it's unfortunate because again, back to the roots, Godzilla is one of the furthest things from shallow. Like,
Mhm.
and that's
I
why it
mean,
is the
he
classic.
literally comes from the depths, so he can't
Oh
be
yeah,
shallow.
no, it's
Oh.
true. It's true. And
Sorry, I
like
was a little
again, like why is Godzilla in the Criterion collection? Like these
Mhm,
that whole like organization makes their whole thing is kind of like this is the power of cinema, and
mhm.
we're gonna put it in a collection. We're gonna make really nice Blu-rays for you, and all the boxes are gonna line up and be numbered. It'll be beautiful. I actually do have the Godzilla Criterion, so
Oh, shit.
but yeah, it's like why is that in there? Because Godzilla versus Kong is not is not going in there, and
You never know what's gonna happen in 20
I
years.
will I will bet any amount of money that it won't.
I
Um,
would probably bet with you
yeah,
as well, but hey,
but yeah,
stranger
no,
things have happened.
I do know your point. Yeah, but it's like yeah, the original said something, and
Mhm,
it had a lot to say about um, post-war Japan, the trauma of the war, of the bombing.
mhm,
Um, it's all there, and again, and to sort of like now culturally reduce it down to just this slugfest of like I mean the new one again, it's like glorious stupidity. It's like the most beautiful thing to look at,
mhm.
but it's so silly compared to it because it's like Godzilla with purple eyes and like Kong wearing the Infinity Gauntlet,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and it's
That's
just like
awesome,
what
though.
is going on? On? like it's just again, I will watch that movie and enjoy it for what it's supposed to be, but when you look at what Godzilla minus one accomplished by
Mhm.
really even doing the opposite, and like what I love so much about Godzilla itself in that movie is he looks, or I don't know what its gender is, but I don't want to misgender Godzilla.
It's a lizard, so let's assume it's like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, and
Oh yeah,
they can life find a way it.
yes. Until further information, I will refer to Godzilla as a he. But when the way he is done in Godzilla minus one, he looks stunning in a
Mhm,
way that a modern movie does, but they also at the same time made him throwback because
mhm.
he moves like the old one,
Right.
right? Like, and so it's got this like thing of like part of the power is how it's not the ultimate CGI that these ones
Mhm,
are. Um, and yeah, no, it's just so different, and it is fun that we can say, "Here's the Godzilla buffet. You can have this, this, this."
mhm, mhm.
But it is like it's so different to like what we're churning up on this side of the Pacific.
It's wild because, the tonal difference, it's staggering because you watch the American ones, and again, like, that's my frame of reference so far for Godzilla, and even the Gareth Edwards, like, that canon of films, because I think
Yeah.
all those three are connected, which they're taken seriously compared
Mhm.
to Godzilla '98 anyway.
Yeah.
And Godzilla is not really like a monster in the sense that he's something that's terrifying everybody.
Mhm.
It's kind of a superhero movie to an extent. It's something that you enjoy watching
Yeah.
rampage, right? It's
Even in terms of plot, they're like he's protecting us.
right.
He's maintaining the ecosystem from the monsters, the bad
There's
monsters,
there's
right?
something very interesting in that framing, especially when compared to minus one. Because the scene that kind of sealed the deal for me is very early on in the movie when Koichi, he lands his
Mhm.
plane in that island to fake that the plane's run down, whatever. They're spending the night, and that moment when Godzilla shows up and just
Mhm.
lays waste to the island, which like ferocity. It's like terrifying. Like I was honestly like scared
And
in
he's
the
a
movie
baby
theater.
Godzilla at that point.
Right, and,
Yeah.
like, I had never seen up until this point Godzilla presented in that way that I'm like, "Oh, crap, now I get it. Now I can
Mhm.
understand why he's a threat and why people are afraid of him. It's because he's an indiscriminate force that will destroy anything. Like,
Exactly.
he's not a protector, he's not anything, he's a force of nature, a force of hubris that will lay siege to anything unless you take a stand against it, and in that sense, like, he creates like thematic and moral quandary that Koichi has to confront because he's like ultimate death, where Koichi is afraid to stand up to death or is unafraid or is afraid to live as well. So
Yeah.
it was really interesting, just that one scene, how in that short amount of time it reframed what Godzilla kind of meant to me to that extent.
Yeah.
Just
No, totally.
everything after that's just like that re-emphasizing, right? What Godzilla means, not just to Koichi or to us as audiences, but to Japan, to history. It's very interesting how it's used as a metaphor in such a powerful way, in a way that the Western Godzillas kind of don't even attempt to. Because
Yeah.
yeah, when you
They
say
they
that
don't
he's a
they don't
protector,
represent anything.
it's like
Like, yeah, it's even the like protector thing. Like, there's I don't even know if there's a theme behind it.
let them
I think they
fight.
just yeah, I that's the theme. It's just like it's like yeah, we made that the plot point so you don't hate him, and that's kind of it.
Well,
Um,
correct me if I'm wrong. In the Gareth Edwards one, is Godzilla created from like human radiation, or is he just like a beast that exists in
I
the
think
depths?
no, yeah, that's right because the in that universe because it does connect to Godzilla versus Kong and all that.
Hmm.
Um, I think he's like existed like for freaking forever, and they have that in the the King of the Monsters. They have that like underwater Atlantis where Ken
Gotcha.
Watanabe nukes himself to recharge Godzilla, right? So like, yeah, he's been around like for like millennia, and he isn't this like,
Which kind of
um,
makes it better to an extent, because I was gonna say that if he had actually been created from human radiation, from nuclear bombs and stuff, and then all of a sudden
mhm.
treat him like, but he's our protector, it's kind of like totally missing the point
Yeah,
of what
yeah, no,
nuclear war means and how it comes
exactly,
to bite us in the ass. But at least they're like, let's ignore that completely. Let's not even focus on that part of him.
yeah, because that's what these again. This is Bob Iger.
Hmm. Hmm.
We don't want the messages. Just give us the entertainment. Like it is secondary to debate. Again, I don't want to because I do believe like directors and writers don't think like that.
Hmm.
But it is the suits who sign the checks and a lot of the times tell you what you are making.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I mean that's what it is. It's like those movies have so little to say of
Hmm.
substance, and like that is by design. They and again, I still like them for what they are, but it's like you can't even like compare the depth of them to this.
Hmm.
And it's like what also makes this one so special is yes, like again, it is made by Japanese filmmakers.
Hmm.
Um and because of that, like they have things to say. And to turn like essentially it is a remake. Like
Hmm.
functionally it is a remake of OG Godzilla. In that it's the origin point of
Hmm.
of the story. The minus one thing is I don't even know if I can explain why it's called minus one, but
I had to look it up,
yeah,
and I was just like, okay, I get it.
it's just
I
it's
get
so
it.
Japanese. Like they
Right.
they just name things cool. Like if this was in America, this would be like Rise of Godzilla. Um, it just be like some boring generic
Yeah.
title. Um, but but yeah, like so to essentially make the first one again, but with decades and decades of new perspective
Hmm.
and telling the same messages more or less, but like I loved the angle of like what 70 plus years of reflection on Japanese war strategy in World War II
Hmm.
and then being able to critique it
Hmm.
and say like what were we doing? We valued life so little.
Hmm.
And to make that key in a Godzilla movie. Like it's so it's again it's exactly like what you would want out of these like big kaiju movies. Um it's like yeah, like tell me something real.
Hmm.
And we use again the metaphors and we use the spectacle and we use all of that to inform um the humanity of it.
Right.
And it's like so we have this message on the human side, this you know the part of it's like we're civilians, we got to work together, do it ourselves,
Hmm.
we got to live, we gotta fight for life.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we don't throw life away. And like that's why I love that the boat they sacrificed is empty,
Mhm.
right? Like they
Mhm.
don't throw life away. And and then to have Godzilla be this just lumbering, nuke. Like he's a nuke, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and he doesn't care, and he will, just tear through everything. And it's like again, it's like these you use that spectacle to show these metaphors and messages, and it's just a really like stunning thing. Like
Mm.
I remember like I was watching, I was like, yes, I know the Japanese making a Godzilla movie is taken in a different direction than the way US studios make a Godzilla movie, but I don't think I was expecting this. And I
Mhm.
don't think I'm alone either. That's why it's making so much money. And
I
it's
mean,
like,
I agree, and another part of it that I think is very interesting is not just like how thematically it's so different in how it approaches its themes. You know, that's redundant to say it that way, but uh, in the way that it has, but also how unapologetically anti-Western it is. Because I feel,
mhm,
especially like nowadays. You saw it in Loki. You've seen it like in a bunch of films, or like it has to for the hero to be heroic and for the hero to succeed, he has to be tragic. You know, it's
mm,
one of those things that like the hero can't be happy. There's this sense of like martyrdom and in Western media that kind of gets exhausting after a while because it's
yeah,
like why can't we find joy in the stories that are supposed to uplift us, right? And Godzilla in that sense is very unapologetic, right? Because when Noriko is like blown the hell away
yeah,
in the midpoint of the movie, I'm like, well, this chick's toast. You know, there's no way
yeah,
that she can possibly survive Godzilla's atomic breath or whatever the hell happened there. And
mhm,
then when she shows up at the end, it's just like, damn, like that is cheesy. That is some Love Actually thing that I never saw coming. But I'm glad for it because, like, after you see like all this death and destruction, and like everyone's so hopeful, you kind of want that payoff of being like, yeah, it was worth it, and
yeah.
there
No,
is
it is.
happiness, and there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and all that thing. I mean, obviously, there's a setup for the sequel where she's got, the radiation stuff on her neck and whatever, but at least to culminate this arc of this movie, boom, happy ending. And I think that's kind
Yeah.
of
And
weird
I
to see in a movie nowadays.
I think even the that itself is playing on another theme of with the radiation sickness. It's like it's another theme of the bomb. It is, yeah, we survived it, but there's lasting damage
Mhm, mhm,
also. And it's like I think it was a an interesting choice. Again, it's like you want it to be perfect, but it's not.
mm,
Um and it is an interesting choice. It's a bittersweet twist, I think, or like that's how I took it when I first saw it. And this idea that, if she did survive, but she's still hurt,
mm,
and it's up to, I guess, the viewer to decide what what her future is. You can have your Inception style optimistic or pessimistic outlook on what happens to her, but I think it's an important point of, again, this when you're sort of telling this film of metaphors about nuclear bombing. um it's like, yeah, you may have survived, but
mhm,
there's still so much suffering that we don't
mhm,
even fully understand. So it's like, yeah, um I think it's just, again, another clever way to really hammer down all these themes, of what that experience was for like Japanese culture, Japanese
mhm.
society, because yeah, it's lasting damage.
And it's and in a way, well, you were saying that this kind of just popped into my head, and it's great that we got this movie about that specific point of Japanese history, telling this story in Godzilla, right, and it coming out right now when it comes out, because in a way, it's kind of a bookend to Oppenheimer in some weird
Yeah,
way, because
quite the double feature.
people were saying like, where's the Japanese perspective on the bomb in this movie? And I'm like, well, Godzilla minus one, there you go. Like, here's
Yeah,
the white man made Western film about Oppenheimer making the bomb, and here's the Japanese version of what happened after
yeah.
the bomb. So in a way, like that's yeah, that's a that's a grindhouse film right there.
It
You,
really,
you
yeah.
got both of them together.
And I think that's good because it's like, and that may be people's critique of it, but I didn't think personally or expect that from Oppenheimer.
Mhm. I think
Um,
it would have been insensitive to an extent if like
yeah, it's one of those things
Chris
where it's like
Nolan,
don't speak for people,
right?
right? Like, I think there's a knee jerk response of like, yeah, where is it? But also
Mhm,
you don't want to misrepresent it. So I think that was for that film the smart choice to
mhm,
focus on him, and it does not shy away from the horror of it
mhm, mhm.
because there's that little chunk where it turns into a horror movie,
Yeah,
and that's like the moment where I'm like, oh yeah,
he
Christopher
knows.
Nolan's elite.
He
Like
knows what he knows what's up.
he is an elite filmmaker. But so like I did think that was again probably the right choice, and then that does create this crazy thing where yeah, now Godzilla minus one can be this companion piece
Mhm.
to two sides of a world event. Um,
Unexpectedly. No,
yeah,
shit.
who would have thought? And we're
Criterion
better off.
Collection, they're
We're
gonna
better
pair those
off
2.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are better off for it because yeah, those are just two really powerful movies about um, different but similar things.
Yeah, totally agree. And I mean, and it's one of those things where we can be talking about forever because there's so much to dissect and to analyze from Godzilla minus one that we could be here forever, but we don't have all the time in the world. But before we sign off, I think it's important to, this is a Star Wars podcast, so we need to
Yeah,
kind of see like how other media can cross pollinate into Star Wars. And obviously, we've seen kaiju before in Star Wars, and the Zillo Beast is the perfect example, maybe the only one. I've seen some people say the Bendu is a kaiju, but I would respectfully disagree.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but do you think that the Zillo Beast was a good approximation of the Godzilla mythos, or do you think that Star Wars still has something extra that it could learn from Godzilla, specifically
I
Godzilla
think
minus one?
I think there can always be something to learn. So I won't say no on that point. But I do think the Zillow Beast has it's definitely like exhibited more of what we're talking about with this film than we are with
Mhm.
Godzilla versus Kong, right? Like
True, true.
I do actually believe the Zillow Beast episodes like say a lot
Yeah.
about societies and power and abusing power and all the the great Star Wars sort of um, thematic archetypes that we all know, nature versus
Hmm.
machine and all this stuff and so yeah, it's like I think those little episodes did do a great job in moving a needle of not just putting a monster in for the heck of it,
Yeah.
um, and saying something with it. So yeah, I think every filmmaker can learn something from this film. So I would definitely like encourage anyone um, to be you know be aware of what's so powerful about this film because it's all there,
Hmm.
and at the same time you did good with the Zillow Beast, guys. You did good.
The only thing I
And one
wonder, and I don't know if this was answered, why didn't
yeah,
Palpatine make clone trooper armor with this little beast
well,
armor?
you know
I'll ask.
well he
We'll ask Filoni.
it's the great thing of um it's the tie defender
Hmm, hmm.
issue as well, right? Maybe.
Love me some Tie
So all
Defender.
the money went to the Death Star.
Okay, sure, I'll buy that.
We'll take
Uh,
that for now.
but sorry, I
Um,
cut you off. You were gonna say something else.
no, I mean this is sort of a separate point I was gonna make because I did want to get this in again to tie it to Star Wars. The day I saw Godzilla minus one, I as we do when we're
As one
mostly
does.
miserable people, we scroll through Twitter, um,
Yes.
and I saw Takashi Yamazaki, the
Hmm.
director and
Yep.
writer, shoot his shot for Lucasfilm, and I was so hyped after
Go
seeing
for
this
it.
movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, give this man a shot, because yeah, I think everything he exhibited as a filmmaker in this film, it's exactly the kind of thing that Star Wars would benefit from.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, those conversations should happen, and they probably are because that's how this industry works. You light fire on something, and people start talking. So
I'm
all
gonna
the
put
all
it better
the
myself. Yeah.
yeah, all the luck that can be wished towards him for a good meeting with Lucasfilm.
With
Yeah,
Kathy.
I want to send it. So yeah, that I think is a cool sort of possible Star Wars future for connecting point for this movie. We may have the filmmaker hang out in a galaxy far, far away, and that would be great. And I don't want it to be. I don't want the automatic answer. People are gonna be like, "Oh, he's gonna make a Zillo Beast movie." It's just like, nah, just just stop,
It's
stop
just
it.
a Zillo Beast cameo in the back in
Yeah,
some like there's
just
your Zillo Beast.
just calm down. People can make anything
Right.
they want.
You don't
Um,
have to put him in a little box. Just
yeah,
let the man tell the story that he wants to tell.
yeah, and yeah, I'd be so thrilled because yeah, again, it's um, to make a movie of such spectacle
Mhm.
and have so much to say and make the characters at the center of it so powerful and have such great stories and arcs, and it's like you care about these people, and that is something you don't usually say
Mhm.
with the US Godzilla movies that we've been seeing. So so yeah, no, it's a real triumph. I am glad. I think that was like my first initial thought was like, I'm just so glad this was made.
Mhm.
Like and made the way it was. Because yeah, I think it's really is an all-timer. And you have people who with much better sort of Godzilla credentials than me saying it's the greatest Godzilla movie ever made.
Yeah.
So so yeah, I mean it's in there. I think Gareth Edwards himself was like, this is the Godzilla movie people should be trying to make.
Yep.
And so yeah,
Can't say it better than that, I guess.
yeah.
But like I said, we could be talking forever about this, but there has to be a logical conclusion before all the 10 people that listen to this, peace out. So once again, thank you, Nikki, so much for joining Triad and for talking about Godzilla. Always fun
Absolutely.
to talk something that's not Star Wars. Obviously, we put Star Wars into everything, but it's refreshing, right? To talk about now these Japanese movies and Godzilla and Boy and the Heron,
Mhm.
even though we didn't go deep into that. But before we sign off, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you and what you have going on so they can check everything out?
Yeah, you can check out the Imperial Senate podcast. That is the Star Wars podcast. I am a main timer on. That we've been off for the strike, so we're just trying to wake up again. I'm gonna have another little show on there called the Yub Nub Club. It's something I've been working on. You will definitely at some point hear Goose there.
Oh,
And
so.
then yeah, and then what else? We got One and Done Film Club, which I do with my friend Reed and probably listeners will know Alden Diaz.
Mhm.
Um, he's on there too with me. We watch franchise films. It's the whole process. We pitch which franchise film to watch to each other, and we
Mhm.
vote on it. We have to be unanimous. We decide which one to watch, and we watch it. We do a live commentary with it. So that is that project. I do rewatch Between Worlds on Octo Radio with Alden, and I'm also a contributor on Casterly Talk with Alden and Ken Knapsack. So
I've heard of
you
that
can
guy.
yeah, good times. So if you are a House of the Dragon fan, as you can see, I'm double targeted up on a Monday night.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, if you're a big fan of House of the Dragon, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, Game of Thrones, Willow, we did all of Willow there too. Um, so yeah,
I've
go
heard
you
that
can go
was a
check
show
out
on
that
Disney Plus. Yeah.
dude. I got such a bone to pick. Like
We'll get it back. We'll get it back.
I'm gonna send Godzilla after. So
We're gonna restore the Snyderverse,
yeah,
that shit.
the
So we'll
Willowverse.
get it back.
Yeah, so you can check out Casterly Talk for kind of your more sword and sorcery fantasy stuff.
Awesome, that's great. And for everyone that didn't catch all of that, we'll just leave descriptions links in the description below. Sorry, it's late, so that you can check that out. Please check it out. Nikki's great things to say as you've heard, and obviously all the sites that he contributes to are amazing sites to check out as well. But without further ado, that has been the episode today. Thank you so much for listening. We hope this has been enlightening. If you've seen Godzilla, we hope that this has been a great conversation. Tell us what you think down in the description below. If you haven't seen Godzilla, hopefully this motivates you to go see it because you should definitely give it a chance, especially on the big screen, because there's nothing better than going to the movies, at least in my humble opinion.
Hmm.
But with that, we have been Trial of the Force. You can find us on Twitter, unfortunately, even though we're active on Threads now. Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, I guess. We're on all the things. Just search for at Triad of the Force and you will find us. We're on YouTube, on all your pod chasers, podcatchers, whatever it's called. Look for us. We'll be there as well. We want to support the channel. We have a T Public. Look, a couple of t-shirts. Every dollar helps. I need a new computer to edit these videos because it's suffering right now. But if you can't do that, make sure to share, like, subscribe. We'll appreciate any kind of support. But with that, thank you so much, and may the force be with you.